rather, they're primarily transmitted through sex. There are also known as venereal diseases, and while they can be transmitted through sex, and are most frequently transmitted through sex, many STDs can be spread through contact with body fluids such as semen, blood, vaginal fluids. They can also be spread through contact with infected skin or sores. They have been on the rise in recent years, which tells us that people are having more sex. And in the U.S. alone, we've had over 10 million new cases of STDs occurring. And various impacts of STDs include an immediate monetary impact, which is the money that we spend on STD-related healthcare and research, and that goes into the billions. And like many old diseases that are resurfacing, there are drug-resistant strains. Currently, we're on the lookout rather for drug-resistant strains, and we don't anticipate very good things coming from these drug-resistant strains. Now, the four most common basic types of STDs, and the ones we felt were most important, the ones we did for this presentation, are HIV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Now, HIV is the human immunodeficiency virus. The name, I think, speaks for itself. It's a virus that causes an immune deficiency in human beings. This can lead to the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS, and that and the CDC estimates that around 56,000 people in the U.S. contracted HIV, that is, new people, in 2006. A more recent statistic would be that 34 million people worldwide have HIV as of November 2011. Now, while it is prevalent and incidence is rising, AIDS-related deaths are falling, and that's mostly due to advances in treatments and drugs that we use to treat. There's many ways you can get HIV by association with AIDS. The most common way that people get HIV would be through unprotected sex, which accounts for approximately 70 to 80% of all transmissions. A next prominent way to get HIV, which I'm sure you've all heard of, is infected needle injection. We were talking earlier about hepatitis C and how drug users would share needles. You can also contract HIV through this. Another way to get it is blood transfusions, but this is more concerning third world countries, developing or underdeveloped countries, and not so much in countries like the U.S. where we do screening for these types of diseases. Not just HIV, but let's say mad cow or hepatitis and such. And it's not such a big problem here. Now, another way to get HIV is be born. An infected mother can pass the HIV virus to her child during pregnancy or breastfeed, or birth, rather, because there's a lot of contact with blood. And while there are drugs that can protect an unborn child from their HIV-infected mother, and substantially reduce the risk of transmission of HIV from the child. Now, when you first contract HIV, you might not have any symptoms, and the progression of the disease, or the expression of symptoms, can vary widely from person to person. Sometimes as few as a few months, and sometimes it can be as long as 10 years or more. And you can have HIV and not know you have it. during the period that you don't exhibit symptoms but have the virus in your system, the virus continues to multiply and actively infects and kills cells in the immune system. The cells rather the virus destroys are the primary infection fighters, rendering you susceptible to other diseases. These are called the CD4 plus or the T4 cells. Now, as soon as HIV weakens a person, you get the following symptoms, which are lack of energy, weight loss, fevers, sweats, persistent and frequent yeast infections, rashes, flaky skin, short-term memory loss, and you're going to have these, but these progress into AIDS, the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. This is really just a classification of HIV saying that the HIV-infected person has fewer than 200 CD4 plus cells per microliter of their blood. Now, because of this lower CD4 plus blood cell count, opportunistic infections are common in people with AIDS. Nearly every organ system is affected, and some infections that now symptoms of the advanced HIV or AIDS are much more severe after the progression. People have an increased risk for many diseases, usually the ones that our immune system fights off naturally, common colds, bronchitis, things like that. People with HIV or AIDS are at a much greater risk of dying from these diseases that we all consider. And some symptoms will include coughing, shortness of breath, seizures, painful swallowing, etc. Okay. Now, the only real way to know if you are infected, we talked earlier about sort of dormancy that it has, or rather lack of expression of symptoms, is to be tested for HIV. And you can't really rely on the symptoms that I listed earlier to tell whether or not you're infected. Like we said, many people who are infected do not exhibit symptoms for more than 10 years. And sort of because of the generality of the symptoms and the time HIV takes to develop into AIDS, a sure diagnosis can be made without looking at a test. The next STD, chlamydia. It's a bacteria. Chlamydia is caused by the bacteria Chlamydia trachomatis, and it's commonly transmitted during vaginal, anal, or oral intercourse, and it's generally very easy to cure. However, if left untreated, it can impact a woman's ability to have children, and sexually active women, 25 women should be tested. Now, symptom expression varies between genders for chlamydia, and as many as 1 in 4 men with chlamydia have no symptoms. That's 75% rather showing symptoms. And while the expression of chlamydia varies between genders, the symptoms are usually very similar between them. And those include burning sensation during urination, discharge for males, discharge in the penis or rectum, testicular tenderness, or rectal discharge or pain. For women, these symptoms are more or less the same: discharge, pain, tenderness, etc. But much fewer women express symptoms of chlamydia. The percentage is only 30%, and like I said, the symptoms are really similar. Now, for chlamydia diagnosis. So very recently, there wasn't really a way to diagnose chlamydia infection without taking a sample and culturing it. Taking a sample from the genital area and having it develop. And although it is considered the most definitive test, it is expensive and technically difficult, tedious, and test results are not really available for up to 3 days. New tests for diagnosing chlamydia have been developed, and these new tests rather go to detect genetic material from the chlamydia bacterium and are very accurate. And these tests are less expensive, and test results are available in 2 to 3 days. And these are just some brief statistics. As we can see, based on these statistics, the chlamydia is the most common bacterial infection in the U.S.
So gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is caused by the bacterium Neisseria gonorrhoeae. It grows and multiplies easily in warm, moist areas of the reproductive tract. This includes the cervix, uterus, and fallopian tubes of women, and the urethra of both men and women. It can also thrive in the mouth, eyes, and anus. Gonorrhea is spread through contact with penis, vagina, mouth, or anus. Ejaculation does not have to occur for the disease to be transmitted. Gonorrhea can also be spread from mother to child during delivery. Gonorrhea can be contracted again. Just because a person had it once does not mean he or she can't get it again. People who have had gonorrhea are still at risk of contracting it if they are in contact with an infected person. For men, symptoms and signs include a burning sensation from urinating, a white, yellow, or green discharge from the penis, and men with gonorrhea can get painful or swollen testicles. These symptoms tend to appear 1 to 14 days after infection. For women, symptoms include a painful or burning sensation when urinating, vaginal discharge or vaginal bleeding between periods. Women at risk. Women with infections are at serious risk of complications because some of these symptoms are not prominent or they do not show at all. Symptoms of rectal infection in both men and women may include discharge, anal itching, soreness, bleeding, or painful bowel movements. Diagnostic tests are available to diagnose gonorrhea. A body sample taken from an infected area in the skin. Urine samples are used to test for gonorrhea in the cervix or urethra, and gram stain can be used to see the bacterium under a microscope. In 2009, 300,000 cases of gonorrhea were reported throughout the country. In the U.S., 75% of all reported cases were found in people 15 to 29 years old. Highest rates of infection have been usually found in women who are 15 to 19 years of age and men who are 20 to 14 years of age. This all made gonorrhea the second most reported STD after chlamydia. In this graph, you can see the 2009 reported gonorrhea cases. Women had higher rates of infection than men. Women on the right, women on the left. Syphilis. Syphilis is caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum. Syphilis is spread primarily by sexual activity and contact with syphilis sores. It is also nicknamed the Great Imitator because many of the symptoms are similar to other diseases. It is considered highly contagious because these sores often go unrecognized.